Good evening, and thank you for joining us here at Frank Talks. Now listen, there's a particularly intriguing ruling that just was announced out in Houston, Texas, that I think is something you should know. So let's get into it right after this. Thank you again for joining me tonight here on Frank Talks. And as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, this news is coming to us from the great city of Houston, Texas. Now, a federal court has dismissed a racial discrimination lawsuit filed by 3 black real estate investors in Houston. And tonight, we will explore the potential impact of this ruling on the black community. Now, change to cities, neighborhoods, and communities is inevitable. However, with the latest tide of change, many communities are experiencing gentrification. Now, gentrification occurs when communities experience an influx of capital and concomitant goods and services in locales where those resources were previously non-existent or denied. Now, usually, gentrification occurs when more affluent people move to or become interested in historically less affluent neighborhoods. Now, gentrification is a phenomenon that is a subject to much debate. Now, some believe that its effects are purely positive, while others argue that gentrification brings about harmful consequences. Now, gentrification is a reoccurring issue observed within black communities nationwide, often instigated by various demographic groups, whether the dominant race or other minority populations. Nevertheless, one indisputable fact remains: gentrification will never work for black people. Now, this topic will be further examined in detail tonight here on Frank Talks. Now for the story. As we mentioned, a federal court has dismissed a lawsuit alleging racial discrimination, which was filed by 3 black real estate investors, 2 women and 1 man, in Houston, who claimed they were denied the opportunity to purchase condominiums in a new community development that catered, get this, to Asians. Now, this couple, this is the Ramari family, along with other family members, who is the sister of the wife. And they stated that they were looking to invest in 3 condos at Grand West Condos, a new development there in Katy, Texas. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen to this story from one of the plaintiffs and his attorney. But before we do so, let's show our disclaimer. All right, now that you have seen and read the disclaimer, let's get into this. Let's watch this video clip. And certainly, this is, if you are sitting there and you're watching this alone, please take a moment to share this story with all your family members that may be in the Houston area, or I would say anywhere in America. All right? While you're gathering your family and friends and you're sharing this video or you're liking this video, I want to say to you that this is something that if we're not careful, it will continue to go as it has always been. So let's watch this video clip and we'll be right back.
His wife and his sister-in-law have been eyeing these condos for quite some time. And they showed up to the condominium unit looking to purchase 3 condos. And as they arrived there, they met a RE/MAX agent, and she was very, averse to them purchasing in that condominium. It was to the point to where she lied about what her title was within that condominium. She also lied about other things such as an age requirement, and also she refused to negotiate the sale price with the Ramaris. Now, we know under the Fair Housing Act in this country that no one can refuse to negotiate with you in regards to a rental or purchase price for a piece of property. And, what she did was, in direct violation of the Fair Housing Act laws that protect Black folks and other minorities from housing discrimination. Now, what really makes this matter, kind of stick is the Ramaris had their experience. They still sought to purchase property in this condominium unit. And ultimately, this RE/MAX agent told them that she felt uncomfortable with selling to them in this condominium community.
Probably we won't be able to get along with.
So James, his wife, and his sister.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, initially, it was reported that a real estate person declined to engage in price negotiations, a practice deemed unlawful. Furthermore, she allegedly misrepresented an age requirement. Now, despite these allegations, the Ramaris, remained in acquiring property within that condominium unit. Now, let's hear more. AB, please.
Verbatim, quote, "My gut feeling tells me that you and I wouldn't get along. I wouldn't get along with you or your family. That's what my gut feeling tells me," quote unquote. So at that moment, right, I had concerns myself. No, she said.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've watched the clip and you heard how the realtor, Lynn, allegedly denied them access. And the group stated, and I quote, "We went inside. She was reluctant to show us. She asked irrelevant questions, and she told us, quote, 'My gut feeling tells me not to sell to you because we wouldn't get along with you.'" Now, can you envision receiving such a statement directly in today's context? How would you have reacted to such a provocation? I'm generally interested in your perspective on handling a situation where someone openly challenges you. Now, as illustrated in the video, the Ra-Amari family promptly pursued legal action in response to the incident. Now, let's listen to what else occurred from the plaintiff and his attorney. All right.
Important to know that there's marketing documents surrounding that community that specifically is asking for people from Asian and Chinese descent to buy into this community, which is another violation of the Fair Housing Act.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the attorney's statement regarding exclusive marketing of a condominium unit solely to Asian individuals raises concerns about potential illegal discriminatory policies and practices. The incident occurred in Houston without any significant public outcry. Now, the absence of attention to such matters prompts questions about the involvement of advocacy groups like Black Lives Matter. Now, it is essential to address these issues and assure fair treatment for all, irrespective of race or ethnicity. Again, where was Black Lives Matter in all this? Oh, I forgot. They only come when they're looking to address the shooting from a police officer of a black man. Or better yet, they're waiting for the next march or protest for an opportunity to sell Black Lives Matter t-shirts and then, of course, raise money. Moving on. Now, as we see, we're going to watch another video clip here. And we will watch this clip.
Thoughts on that is very distasteful. Very.
This video, have you taken the time to even like this video? Because this content, this information that we're sharing is very pivotal at this time in 2024 for our community, especially as we're on the precipice of voting in our next president of the United States. Now let's watch this video and we'll be right back.
That we had organized around that particular condominium we develop on. So this was.
I guess we're back here quicker than I thought. And while we're giving our producer time to resolve this issue again, if you are in the Houston area, here in the chat, if you're in that Houston area and you're familiar with this actual incident, this court case, I want you to shout it out in the chat, all right? So let's go ahead and watch this video clip and we'll be right back.
Thoughts on that is very distasteful, very unfortunate. This was a strategic move by myself and my wife. We had been eyeing this condominium for the past 7.5 months. This was our second visit there. We had an open house first when everyone was able to go. We did we filled in a questionnaire. We submitted that. And on our second time there, we were refused. We went there with our earnest money. We were ready to purchase. We moved around some personal resources in order to execute this transaction because it correlated with some other things that we had organized around that particular condominium. We own a parcel of land in a commercial district in Katy that my wife and I plan to develop on. So this was a strategic move that has pretty much put us at a standstill at this current moment.
All right. As evidence from
my wife
account, their involvement
7.5 months. This is
not novel, having previously acquired land with development intentions in close proximity. The Ra-Amari strategic planning spanned 7.5 months to secure the acquisition of the 3 units. Their initial interaction occurred during an open house where they completed a questionnaire, which I believe was a pivotal moment that seemingly captured the attention of the relevant parties. Now, the significance is underscored by James's assertion that despite their earnest financial commitment, they were denied entry on their subsequent visit. Now, I want you to hear more from their attorney, Attorney Moore.
I think it's important to note that Remax, which is a large company, they hired this minority woman to discriminate against a specific
group. And is the realtor also Asian?
The realtor is also Asian. So the Remax agent that the Ra Amaris came across is actually Asian. So we plan on pursuing every possible avenue from a legal standpoint possible. We intend to file a lawsuit that's going to address the Ra Amaris claims in full, and we look to prosecute those claims to the fullest extent of the law. What we know in this country is that housing has been a real issue when it comes to Black folks in this country. And if we're using minorities to continue redlining, which is preventing Black folks from the free moving and also the free investing that we should be due under our constitutional rights, that's a problem. We're going to fight against that, regardless if you're, white, yellow, brown, etc. Black folks deserve to have a fair shot of investing. Well, I think it's important to note that Remax, which is a large company, they hired this minority woman to discriminate.
And I plan to develop on. So this was a strategic move that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, while I prefer not to engage in conspiracy theories, however, did you all hear Attorney Moore's statement? He said, if we are using minorities to continue redlining, which is preventing Black people from the free moving, free investing that we should be doing as our constitutional rights allow us, then he says we will fight. Did you guys get that? The redlining. Now, could you kindly, AB, contact the Black Lives Matter organization to engage them in supporting cases where individuals are unjustly obstructed from accessing fair investment opportunities? AB, can you get those guys on the phone? Seems they're not answering. Now, for those of you, since we couldn't get in touch with them at the moment, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term redlining, let's see what redlining is. Is prohibited only when based on discriminatory factors. Again, AB, please, can you give up on Black Lives Matter because they won't answer. We know that they will not answer. Unless of course, they won't answer. I'm telling you, they won't answer unless no, seriously, AB, come on, give up on them because they won't answer unless there is, again, a man down. That's when they'll answer. If there's a man down, that's when you will see BLM respond. Next, we hear from this case, right? And we hear what I would consider the disappointment and frustration from James Ra Amari in this clip. Let's see if we can get that clip up. And while AB's working to get that clip up, our producer, I want to see you where you're coming from, where you're watching from, all right? Let's watch this clip.
At this moment, this is how we make a living, my wife and I. The way you handle money is with money. And so we had to invest money in order to continue making a living and build our portfolio. We thought this transaction would be as easy as possible, being the fact that it's represented by one of the most notorious firms in the country, which is RE/MAX. And to be treated in that way is very distasteful, repugnant. Like I said, words really can't explain at this moment, but I have no doubt in my mind that justice is going to be served. It's undescribable.
I hope you guys could tell that there was frustration from James Ra Amari. But even so, he offers a profound insight amidst his frustration with the statement, the way you handle money is with money. Let me say that again. The way you handle money is with money. Now, this profound observation resonates deeply with me, highlighting the importance of individuals' financial acumen in various contexts. Now, let me give you an example. For example, it suggests that individuals responsible for managing the tithes and offerings at your church should possess a solid financial foundation. How you handle money with money. Now, James alluded to RE/MAX's reputation as he discussed the perceived simplicity of the transaction. For those unfamiliar, RE/MAX stands for Real Estate Maximums. And it's an American multinational real estate corporation functioning on a franchise model. So if you would just imagine going to a McDonald's, there's a McDonald's in every neighborhood, every city. And those McDonald's are owned by franchisees, all right? So RE/MAX functions on that same franchise model. Now, while James and his team anticipated a straightforward process, various unforeseen factors complicated the transaction, making it clear and very challenging. So let's hear more from that interview.
Right. So the Ra Amaris, if they have the ability to purchase into this condominium neighborhood, they should have the ability to do so. It shouldn't be something that they're precluded from doing so because of their race. That's one. And two, the Ra Amaris never made a distinction as to if they were going to use these properties for themselves or as investment properties.
Well, if I can interject, actually, on their advertisement, it specifically says different prices for personal use or for investment purposes. We disclosed that information to this RE/MAX agent, and we let her know that we were going to purchase all 3 condominiums for investment purposes. The investment units actually had a different price than the personal sale. So we were coming in as investors, and that was disclosed.
Right.
All right. Now, this clip raises, at least in my humble opinion, a very significant question. The question is, should one's race prevent
He's never made a
decision in a specific neighborhood? All right. That's question number 1. Should it prevent them from buying property in a specific neighborhood? Additionally, James Ra Amari's intervention with his attorney was commendable, as he ensured no ambiguity by clarifying that they had indeed informed the property owners about their intention to utilize the properties for investment purposes. He highlighted that their advertisement distinctly delineated pricing for personal use versus investment, illustrating their transparency to the RE/MAX agent. Now, the case against RE/MAX primarily centered around an alleged violation of the Fair Housing Act, as per the information conveyed. Now, if you aren't familiar with this Fair Housing Act, the Fair Housing Act says, let's roll with it. Yes. Let's watch here. Let's see the Fair Housing Act. 1968 is a federal law that forbids discrimination in most housing-related activities, including buying, selling, renting, or financing, based on race, color, sex, national origin, or religion. It has been amended to include protections against discrimination based on disability and familial status. Now let's see what else this Fair Housing Act. I hope you guys are really paying close attention, especially if you're looking to purchase a home, to purchase property, to make an investment. I hope that's the case. Now let's look at what else the Fair Housing Act tells us. Now, the Act generally covers a wide range of housing. However, there are limited exceptions. It does not apply to owner-occupied buildings with no more than 4 units, single-family houses sold or rented directly by the owner without an agent, and housing operated by religious organizations or private clubs that limit occupancy exclusively to their members. This act constitutes Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. But it seems that when it comes to the court of law, and ladies and gentlemen, I hope you noted that it says any area that is property that is more than 4 condo units, 4 units, all right? But when it comes to us, though the blindfold symbolizes impartiality in the eyes of Lady Justice, it appears that in our personal legal matters, she occasionally peeks behind her blindfold. Now, this belief is clearly reflected in the verdict issued by the judge in this case. Now, upon reviewing this case, it becomes evident that a series of motions were filed between December 13th, 2022 and December 21st, 2022. But almost immediately after the summons was issued to all defendants on October 5th, 2022. Now, the submission was made because there were additional defendants, including eXp Realty, LLC, Grand West Residential Condominium Association Incorporation, Ching Ching Lin, Remax, LLC, UMRE Investment Holdings, LLC, and United Property Management. Now, I believe this to be a very strategic decision by the plaintiffs, and it seemed prudent considering the potential liability of each party involved. But however, despite these efforts, the plaintiffs did not achieve their intended outcome in this case, in that the judge did not rule on their behalf. Now, the civil action against the Remax franchise network and others again was thrown out on February 27th after U.S. District Judge David Hittner, now that's February 27, 2024, and David Hittner ruled the case lacked the proper legal standing under the Federal Fair Housing Act. And that is why I think we should take a look at this judge. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on April 22nd, 1986, President Ronald Reagan nominated Hittner to replace Judge George Edward Sire on the United States District Court for the Southern District of Texas. Following confirmation by the U.S. Senate on June 6, 1986, Hittner received his commission on June 9th, 1986. Now, let's take a look at some of his notable cases, shall we? Now, in the case of racial gerrymandering, let's look at that. Served on a 3-judge panel that found 3 out of Texas's 30 congressional districts delineated by the state legislature in 1990 to be unconstitutional. Now, these districts were crafted to manipulate election outcomes by exploiting racial minority demographics. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld the panel's ruling on 2 separate occasions. All right? So that's one that we look at here, one of his notable cases where it was racial gerrymandering there in the great state of Texas. Now, there was another case, and this case was the case of Sandra Bland. Let's look. This case may be, and it may be the reason for many of us and many of you that this judge seems familiar, because in 2016, Hittner approved the dismissal of a wrongful death civil rights lawsuit brought by the family of Sandra Bland, an African-American woman who tragically passed away in a Texas county jail shortly after a contentious arrest following a routine traffic stop. We all remember that. And the official cause of her death was determined to be suicide. Subsequently, legal representatives for Bland's family informed Hittner, following court-sanctioned mediation, that a financial settlement of $1.9 million had been reached to resolve their legal claims. Upon initial assessment, the judge in this case, AB, could you please put his picture back up for us? So this judge, in my humble opinion, appears to demonstrate impartiality by adjudicating solely based on the presented case's merits, devoid of any apparent bias. So what happened here? Was there an absence of any form of discrimination in this situation? Now let's take a look at some examples of what we would consider and what the law considers housing discrimination. Now, the first scenario depicts a situation where a landlord informs a prospective tenant over the phone that an apartment is vacant. However, upon meeting the caller, who is Black, the landlord falsely asserts that the apartment has been rented. Subsequently, the same apartment is offered to a caller of a different race. Now, the second example aligns, in my opinion, more closely with the circumstances observed in this case. So in the highlighted section here, it is noted that a real estate agent refused to show a house in a specific neighborhood to a buyer based on their race, religion, or ethnicity. Alternatively, the agent may have steered the buyer towards a different neighborhood for discriminatory reasons. Now, while the agent did not explicitly redirect them to an alternative location, she did decline to show them available units during a subsequent visit, citing their race. Now, this bias became apparent when she remarked again, "That's right. My gut is telling me that I should not sell to you." Now, such a statement implies prejudgment solely based on race, evident from an initial encounter. Now, following this incident, various individuals shared their perspectives on the case's outcome, Now let us consider their viewpoints, shall we? No, you're gonna have to. Our producer is working to make that less. It says here, it's not your home if you do not live in it. But yeah, it's an investment. And it's a major problem for anybody who is a first home buyer, given how many hedge funds and others have been buying up properties everywhere, particularly for single family homes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is very important in that commenter, because we do know that there are investors, hedge funds that are buying up properties. And how are you going to combat what the hedge funds are doing? And even in times when you take them to court, will you receive the outcome that you desire? Let's look at another comment. This commenter says, these are two competing real estate companies who both own and lease properties. The three black real estate investors were using the Fair Housing Act as a position, to force their competitor to sell them part of their business. It's as simple as that. The Fair Housing Act was created to protect discrimination against homeowners or renter who will live in the units they intend to purchase. It would be no different if a real estate investor who owned a 50-unit rental building and a competing real estate investor is forcing them to sell part of their rental building using a federal law. Fair Housing Act implying discrimination to take away part of their business income. Atlantic Black Star News is twisting this into a racial issue when it is not. It was an attempt by one business to force another business to give up some of their revenue to them using a federal law and discrimination, and the judge saw through it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just deal with that for a moment, because this person seems to think that if you buy a property, say for instance, you build a mall, and then someone says, I want to purchase space, like many times restaurants do, in the land where the mall resides. Do they not sell them the land? Do they not allow them to perhaps lease the land and have their business? I think this commenter has something to maybe learn about the Fair Housing Act. Let's look at another comment. And this comment says, the plaintiff only tried to purchase 3 units as investment properties. There's nothing wrong with that. There is, however, an issue with not selling because of race, creed, sexuality, faith, etc. You wouldn't want it for yourself. Why are you so... I'm not sure what that says. To have it done to someone else. The Fair Housing Act does apply to entities including private investors. A quick look at some of Lynn's businesses sites and their social Facebook, because not Instagram because it's private. You can see they only cater to Chinese Asian communities, preferably from China, investing or immigrating, to the U.S. Furthermore, in this article, it was suggested that Lynn said all current owners were personal friends and knew each other a while. And I find it hard to believe that they are advertising properties for sale unless they are friends with every Asian. I find what she said hard to believe. And I'm going to stop that right there because it was hard to read. Nevertheless, is there another comment? All right, let's read this one. Madeline Williams says, normally I let this one go, but if the situation was reversed and a group of well-financed black real estate investors in prime real estate and with the backing of a RE/MAX created an inclusive black upscale living community. Then an Asian real estate investor wanted to invest and claims discrimination if denied. Would the ruling have been the same, I wonder? Oh, wait. We never would have made it past trying to buy prime real estate in the first place without jumping through hoops. No whining, just my opinion, and watching my family jump through the real estate investor hoops. Wow. There's one more. This commenter, Vicky Brown, says, wow, it's very un-American to build communities for a specific group of minorities versus just a group of great folks who may enjoy a diverse neighborhood. This is how we build segregation and dislike for others. Wow. Now, we have one more. We have one more comment. And this commenter says, finally someone gets it. These comments are sad. Also keep in mind that in black areas, black people couldn't even attain loans to open businesses in their own areas, but Asians and others sure did. Now, you heard those comments, and I must say that people had something to say when it came to this story. And I, for one, when I look at the vast number of people that were simply voicing their opinion, I am glad to hear the comments because it shows that there are others that care about this story. And I'm so glad that we're bringing this story to you all this evening because this is something that you should know. And Frank Talks desires to give you information that can help our community and help you as an individual to move and to purchase and live out the American dream as so you desire. Now, as again, we mentioned here in these comments, I'm so thankful that we were able to bring this story to you because I believe that in the upcoming election, there are things that we need to focus on. I know that many of you are looking at what's going on with the Migrant Crisis, and we brought you that story right here on Frank Talks just the other week. And others are looking at what I believe the Democrats will possibly run on, which is your reproductive rights. But I believe that there is something that needs to be said when we talk about these issues. All right. Now, after considering various perspectives, from commenters, I want to know what you have to say, and I seek your opinion on the matter. Is it justifiable for this couple to be denied the opportunity to acquire units in a specific building simply due to their race? Moreover, is it equitable for that community to engage in property transactions within black communities, open their businesses, and own residencies in those same communities while benefiting from governmental financial support? Now, this prompts a fundamental question. Does the principle of "and justice for all" hold true? Or is it justice for some? Perhaps it is time to engage with Black Lives Matter to delve deeper into this issue. AB, please, can you get BLM on the phone? I guess they're out looking for another issue. They're not answering. Thank you, AB. Now, this discussion does not aim to target any specific racial group. Frank Talks seeks to understand why the black community faces barriers to building generational wealth compared to other communities. While opportunities seem more accessible to other groups regardless of their location. The Black community often encounters obstacles in accessing such opportunities. The proposition is not to suggest treating others the same as the Black community, but rather to advocate for equal treatment of the Black community in line with how other communities are treated. Now, this hypothetical scenario presented fails to demonstrate this notion, as it implies that the outcome might have differed if the Asian real estate company, I believe as one commenter said, were Black owned. And if James Ra Amari were, let's say he was Steven Spielberg, highlighting potential disparities and how such situations could be handled, particularly in a legal context. Wow, did you get that? If we switched the races of people, ladies and gentlemen, would they have the same outcome? Would it even go to court? And if it did, would the judge rule? And you know what he did rule? He ruled that this case, they did not have enough information to stand up under the Fair Housing Act, the Federal Fair Housing Act. And you know what he did? He ruled a verdict with prejudice, which means they cannot even seek to retry this case. Ladies and gentlemen, what is happening to our community? I want to hear from you. Good night, and thank you for having this honest and frank talk.